YouTube, and welcome to the Guns, Gear, and Grub channel. Today I would like to take a little time to do a video about what is an essential part for many people's fighting carbines: backup iron sights, or in this case flip-up iron sights. And with so many of them out there on the market, it's often hard to know what to spend money on, what not to spend money on. You know, the cheap ones better or the expensive ones better. So I want to do a little video today about the comparison of some of the different models of backup or flip-up iron sights out there. So from left to right I have here a Yankee Hill Machine A1 style flip-up sight, a Midwest Industries A2 style flip-up sight, Magpul MBUS Gen 1, Magpul MBUS Gen 2, the Command Arms flip-up sight, the Matech flip-up sight, and here I have a low-cost Leapers or UTG flip-up sight. This is the Midwest Industries rear flip-up sight A2 style. The materials in this sight are an aluminum body, an aluminum upper body here, an aluminum locking lug for the rail, a steel aperture, a steel screw going through the aperture holding it in place, a steel detent, and the way this sight works is there is no locking mechanism when in the folded position, but it goes ahead, and when it's in the open position, this pin right here, this locking pin, sits in this groove. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a channel right there that this locking pin goes ahead and expands. It's a spring pressure pin. It expands to fit into this channel right here. Also, there's a detent in here which seems to be steel. I have not taken it apart, so I don't know for sure, but you can see here that this, since its upper body here is aluminum, and sometimes there is pressure put on this sight, you know, whether I knock it into stuff or whether it, you know, the rifle falls when it's on a bench at the range, it's gone ahead and cut a bit of a channel into my locking groove here, this detent groove on this aluminum upper housing here. So because this is aluminum, it seems to be a bit weaker than if this were a steel upper housing here. The apertures here are also standard A2 style with a small peep and a 0 to 200 yard larger peep. It is an A2 style windage. It is not adjustable for elevation. Reliability issues with this sight are, again, I've had none directly, but I kind of have the feeling that if I do go ahead and drop the rifle on this sight from any height while this sight is in the extended position, I do have a feeling that this upper housing will break. I do not have a lot of faith in this. So this is kind of relegated to my nowadays. This is kind of relegated to my spare parts drawer. The weight of this sight is 2.12 ounces. Here is the Midwest Industries rear flip-up sight A2 style sitting behind an EOTech 552. The one thing I should point out is that on this sight, if you have the larger style peep sight in the up position, it will go ahead and fall down flat. But however, if you go ahead and put up the smaller peephole, it will go ahead and the larger peephole will go ahead and make contact with the rail on the bottom. The Yankee Hill Machine A1 style flip-up rear sight. It is made out of a base that is steel, a flip-up body that is aluminum, steel apertures, steel screw through the aperture, steel locking pin, steel locking ring, and a steel wind adjustment knob. Now the locking mechanism, in order to go ahead and lock this into place, is there is a push pin here that is under spring tension when inside, but it goes ahead and pops out when it hits. There's a shoulder here that that rides underneath the body here, and when this goes ahead and comes to this cutout over here, this opening over here, it pops up because it is a wider diameter, and it goes ahead and locks into place. Now, since this is a steel body and a steel rod, this makes it a very robust, durable sight. It's very strong. In order to go ahead and close this sight, you push down here, you go ahead and you fold the sight back down. Now, when in the folded position, there is no locking mechanism. It's just simply folded down. Just flip it up to open it, and just push back to go ahead and close it. Now, this has two apertures. It has both a large hole aperture for, I guess, 0 to 200 yards, and it has a small hole aperture for 200 yards and out. On this particular sight, the windage adjustment is the A1 style. I bought this one because I just thought it would be a different kind of cool to have, where most of them have the A2 style, which you just turn. This one has a locking detent in here that locks into these different holes, so you can't go ahead and just turn it. You have to go ahead and push it down, then go ahead and turn it. The old A1 style sight tools. Now, this sight I've had for quite a while. I've had it on a few different rifles, and it's been very reliable. I've had no issues at all. I do not know a lot of other people who have this particular A1 style, but I know of a lot of people who have used the A2 style from Yankee Hill Machine, and they found it to be an overall excellent sight. Because of its construction, it is a little heavier of the sights. This one happens to weigh 2.45 ounces. Overall, not too bad. One thing I do not really like about this particular style, which is just kind of a small thing, I'm not personally a fan of the thumb knobs. I much prefer an Allen key, a smaller Allen key screw. I find these thumb nuts to be a little bit too large for my personal taste. Here is the Yankee Hill Machine A1 style rear flip sight sitting behind an Matech. These are the Magpul MBUS rear flip-up sights. In green here, this is the Gen 1, and in black here, this is the Gen 2. They are functionally the same sight. The only difference is there are some minor cosmetic differences and some different sizing differences that the Gen 2 seems to be a little bit smaller, just minutely. Now, this sight is made out of polymer, actually a glass reinforced nylon, which is the mil-spec material when using different plastics for the military. The only metal here seems to be this spring here, the bolt that goes across that holds the aperture in place, and this bolt, the locking bolt that locks onto the Picatinny rail. Now, this sight has two apertures. First, it has a large peep aperture, which is standard on most all sights, and it has a smaller peep aperture, but it's not a complete standalone aperture. This smaller peep aperture seems to be like a kind of like a plug aperture that kind of folds up and plugs into the larger peep, giving a smaller dimension peep hole. It is a very unique and interesting way of doing things. I find it works quite well, and I seem to like it. Now, this sight, it does not lock in the open position. It is only held open by spring tension and this arm, which sits in this notch, but it is cut in a slant so that if you put a little bit of pressure on it, it will fold, which is a good thing, because since this is made out of polymer, if this is open on a rifle and the rifle falls, and it falls top down and it lands into, let's say, a rock, or you're going through a house and you slam this into a door jamb, if this did not fold, this little locking lug here would most likely, which is on both sides, crack off, or something, or these notches here, the block here that's separating these two notches might crack, and might be one giant one. But since this goes ahead and folds on its own, or it folds just against spring pressure, it will go ahead and be actually more durable that way. One thing I'm not so sure of is the locking lugs that attach it to the Picatinny rail. These are polymer, and over here you can see it's quite thin. Now, I've had a lot of experience with polymer and polymer grips and different parts that attach to Picatinny rails and different mounts. Now, the one place I do find that they do break most of the time, if there is an issue, is where it attaches to the to the Picatinny rail, where it is at its thinnest point. And right here, it seems to be pretty thin. But since this does have a low profile in the closed position, and when it is open, it will actually fold on its own, it shouldn't actually have enough force on this to rip it off of a rail. Now, I have used these. I would like to add that I have used these quite a bit, and I've had nothing but good success with them, and I happen to like them a lot. They're one of my favorite flip-up sights, and since they're all polymer, they are also the lightest. Here are the Magpul Gen 1 and Gen 2 flip-up sights sitting behind and in front of an Matech 552. You push down over here, and it pops up, and same thing here. Now, one thing you should know is that these are actually the longest of the sights I have reviewed, and this one is 2.5 inches in length, and this one's about 2.4 inches in length. So they are the longest, followed up behind the Matech, which is a bit shorter, and most other sights are 2 inches or shorter.